One of the questions that I get asked all the time is, Raul, how can I help my wife grow? How can I help my spouse go to the next level? Because I'm growing, I'm expanding, but sometimes I feel like my wife is not meeting me halfway. The question I ask all the time is, are you growing? Are you expanding? What are you doing to focus on you? Because let's be honest, the last 20 plus years I've been married, the one thing I've learned is that you cannot change somebody else. It is impossible for you to force your partner to grow with you. The only thing you could do is focus on what you can control, which is yourself. I want to share with you this conversation I had with my wife at the Next Level Virtual Leadership Summit. We share with our leaders what it's like for us to be in this leadership role, at the same time feel like we are growing and expanding and not leaving each other behind.
This is Vivian Raul.
And this is Raul Villacis.
Welcome to the God, Money, and Purpose podcast. Yes, so Raul and I have been married for 22 years, and we've been together since high school. And, you know, like, marriage is one of those things that really can bring out the best in you or the worst in you. And we've had such an amazing journey that, you know, the moment that you could sit back and realize, like, all this, like this, the big picture of what's in front of you, relationship, whether it's your partner, I mean, I know there's some women in the call, whether it's your husband or your wife or your partner, your loved one, when you really sit back and you realize, like, this man has actually helped me, or this woman has actually helped me be this person that I am today. And that in itself is like, oh, that's why God put you in my life for. Mm. And when you realize that, then you start to think of a relationship with different ideas. And I think right now that's in the place where Raul and I are, because we've been together for so long. We know so much of each other, but we're no longer just thinking of, like, me, I, what do I want? What do I need? It's just, now it's more like, how can I love you? How can I serve you? How can I live, to love you? So relationships do change. There are many different levels in relationships. And I love the fact that if we could just take the time, like, we've heard today, I think, a lot of, like, gratitude. And I think that's something huge that we don't usually exercise in our relationships as much as we should. And that is something that we really been doing, and that has really shifted our relationship in this 20 plus years. And I think that's something that we could take in from, all of this that we've heard today. Is like, gratitude is a huge thing. And what are the questions that you're asking yourself? What are the questions that you ask yourself for your relationship? And when you shift those questions, then the relationship starts to shift.
One of the things that I just heard you say right now that is key is when you start looking at your relationship from a different point of view and not necessarily thinking, what can I get from you? Because here's what happens when you're in the survival stage, you're always taking. What's in it for me? What can you do for me? But then you can't give if you're empty too. So the first step in our relationship, when we started to actually get to a place where right now, is we had to start working on ourselves. I had to figure it out. How do I feed myself? How do I build myself? How do I create the man that I want to be? So then I don't depend on this woman to help me. Right. I think a lot of men, we are secretly codependent on our wives to praise us or to validate who we are, because we're insecure about who we are. And when a woman is not on board, then we always say, well, she didn't support me, that's where I failed, or she didn't do this, that's what, I gave up. When the reality is, if you are in a place where, hey, this is where I'm going, this is who I am, this is who I am becoming, whether she's on board or not, this train is still moving. Mm-hmm. And that's the moment that your queen and your wife is gonna look at you from a different set of viewpoint.
And then something else that's really big that's coming out for a lot of the women, which I'm just starting to coach women now, like in a broader sense. But one of the biggest things is, are we worthy? And that's something so big that I see with women nowadays. And not just women, but even in a relationship. Like, am I worthy of love? Am I worthy of having someone love me for who I am? Is this enough? And when we get in tune, like for me, I could say honestly, like this, it's been 5 years that I'm just learning to really know like who, and I could curse in here because Raul curses all the time, but excuse my language, it's kind of hard for me to say it. Like, who the fuck am I? And when you realize that, and when you really realize when your mind catches up to what your heart really knows, and I'll say that again, like when your mind catches up to what your heart already knows of who you are, because your heart knows, you know, Raul and I, especially I, believe in God, and when you believe in that, just that idea alone, and you realize that God made this goddess, and I could say that all day long, but does my mind and my heart really, are they in line to that idea that I am this goddess? Therefore, goddess deserves to be loved, deserves to feel love, to be treated with love. Then that's a whole different aspect. And that's something that women, that I didn't feel that for a long time, because I didn't feel that I was worthy of love. And in the minute that like that catches on and you feel like worthy, then I feel worthy of love. Then you see me with different eyes. Then I see you with different eyes. Then there is no sense of fighting for love, but it's because I know that I already love myself, so then that's more than enough. And I am more than enough.
And you see how it comes down to the feeling of not enoughness.
Right.
Right? So if a man feels like I'm not enough, automatically I'm trying to get you to validate my not enoughness so you can make me feel like, okay, I am enough.
And the same thing for me.
And when a woman doesn't feel enough, then it's trying to find a man to validate who they are. So in both cases, the unconscious connection of codependency, depending on each other, is what breaks relationships.
Yes.
And unless you take ownership and say, okay, I'm not going to depend on this woman. So we talk about, I want you, I don't need you. And that's, you know, where I constantly am reminded,
that's a sexy
like,
energy.
You
see the difference?
I tell you all the time, like, I want to be with you, you know, and
like,
I know
you.
she wants me, she doesn't need me. So the moment that you're no longer in that needy energy, I need you so I could become the king. I need you so I could build my business. I need you.
Yeah, and just to say something to that, like, there's some men out here, there's some men out there that are kings already. And I think like you have to believe that. And the minute that you believe that, when you know that you're that king, your queen will show up. You know, one of the things that I tell the girls, I'm like, you know, when you have like fear knocking at that door, faith shows up and answers it. When there's a king in that kingdom, like there's a queen that's going to come and knock at that door, but she won't come until you're ready. It doesn't happen that way.
So I just finished the book, The King's Code. And as I'm writing the book, I realized that
I can't wait.
That we all have the birthright. As men, we have a birthright to become kings. That's been our birthright as men. You know, I believe in God. I believe that God made us in His image, so He is a God. So therefore, you know, we are kings, right?
Right.
But in this conscious level that we live in, we have to make a choice to choose to become the king.
Yeah.
To choose to say, okay, I'm willing to become the king. And I think the fear for a lot of men is, am I really the king? Do I really believe that I'm the king? If a woman doesn't make me feel that I'm the king, am I really the king? And I think we battle a lot. And the one way to break through that pattern is to really exude that energy of believing in yourself and really finding, you know, what makes you worthy of being a king without the attachment of having the queen validate you, without the attachment of the world even validating you. Because the world that you want to build comes from within. You know, I'm looking back, and when I went to the tunnel and you were kicking my ass saying, hey, why are you going to the seminars? Why are you doing this? And like, you had a glimpse of the things that I was going through, because even with you, you know, you didn't know the full story until later on of like my depression, my darkness, my suicidal thoughts. Because at the point is, the point for us as men is not to exude any weakness, right? But the moment that as men, like if I would have brought into what you were saying, I would have felt even worse because I said, well, my wife doesn't believe that I could make it happen, so I'm gonna quit, right?
Yeah.
But I had a deep desire in me and said, I need to figure things out because for me it's a must. I was in so much pain that it had to be a must for me. Yes. Whether you agreed or not, I was going to break through. So I think a lot of men, one thing that you get out of this conversation right now is your wife may not even know the pain that you're going through. And she doesn't need to. And she may not ever understand. But what you're going through is up to you. You are the only one who chooses the path that you're in. Once you come out of that tunnel, it's a different story. Once you come out of the story, then your wife starts to really take a shift on the energy. So talk to them a little bit about what happens when a man is in the tunnel, because we have a lot of new guys here. What's the energy that they exude, and how can they communicate with their wives so they don't get on the way of the journey, and then what happens at the end of the tunnel when a man completes his journey.
Okay. Well, the tunnel, I think it's, as many of you may know, or have heard Raul talk about it, the tunnel is just a sacred place for you to be in. It's a place where, like, you go there by yourself. Don't think that anyone could walk in there with you because it's such a narrow, lonely place that it's only made for you. And I really wouldn't say lonely. It doesn't need to be lonely, but it's a place made for you. And I think, like, if you want somebody to go holding your hand, you've already, like, failed at that. But it's a place for you to take your time, a place that is sacred, a place that it's, just your own place to feel the emotion and to have your inner truth, like you were talking about. Because I think a lot of the time for men, what we see a lot, it's like, or what I saw in you, it's like you didn't have that space. Nobody creates that space. Nobody makes it okay for you to have that space, or even for women. And I think, like, once you're there, like, give yourself permission to speak the truth. Give yourself permission to actually be honest to whatever's happening. Because when you go in that place, then that's like your sacred place. It's your choice. And then once you come out from there, you come out with, like, a different mentality. You come out with thinking, like, okay, whether I made the right or the right choice, that was my choice. And it's a sense of freedom. And I know that it takes some time, and I think that's something that most men don't gift themselves, is the gift of time. So, like, gift yourself the time just to be there, whatever time it is for you. Like, for everybody's different. And just allow, now in the other perspective of, like, if your wife is waiting towards the end, wife or partner, just give her also the time, because all of this, like, relationships are not difficult, but it's like we need to have a better, deeper communication, and that's something that we're just learning to communicate. When Raul came out of the tunnel, like, you would have thought that he would have, like, this cheerleader waiting for him, like, yes, you came out of the tunnel. That's not always the case, because we are on the other side. We're, like, frustrated and angry and, like, built-in resentment, like, what the fuck took you so long? Like, I'm waiting for you here. I'm holding up the castle. Like, I can't take this anymore. I have all these questions and I need some answers. I need someone to talk to. Like, where have you been? See, that's the energy. And maybe that's not what you want to hear at the end when you come out of the tunnel, because you're thinking, like, well, here comes the king. And that might not be enough for us. You also have to understand, like, how do we feel? Do we really want to be this queen when you come out? Do we really want to take that responsibility? Do we even know what that means? So it's all these questions. And I think, something that Raul and I have learned over this past couple of years is, like, we are not each other's enemies. We are here to help and to love on each other. And how can I make your life a little bit better, right?
So I want to try to picture the tunnel and the experience of the tunnel as a journey of war, right? This is where a man goes to war. This is the inner war.
Yeah.
The inner war within yourself, the inner war between who you have to be versus who you want to become. That's the war that we have inside ourselves. That's the voice of the not having enough, not being enough, to the voice that says you were born for greatness, right? So in the middle of this tunnel is when you're battling. In the middle of this tunnel is when most men are sabotaging their relationships. But also in the middle of this tunnel, there is no time. don't put a time into it. You know, it may take
put a
months.
time for yourself.
It may take years. And there's
Yeah.
some, you know, for me specifically, it was like I was a couple of years, I was in the middle of the tunnel because I didn't have the support system that we have here. I didn't have the tools that
And
I
the
have.
understanding of what you're
or,
going through.
Or at least the framework, right, that we
Yeah.
talk about, right?
Yeah.
I thought I was going through a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
When a man goes to the tunnel, from a woman's perspective, it seems like this guy is just disconnected, right?
Yes.
Is disconnected. So, and the more you try to connect, because I know from my experience, you were trying to connect, you were trying to do everything in your power, and I was more like, leave me alone. Like,
Yeah.
leave me alone. And that's where I think that if there's one thing I could go back and advise people, women or men, is just communicate. Listen, I'm going through this. It has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
So I'm going through my own battle right now, and I might not even understand what that looks like, but I'm going through my, it has nothing to do with you. It's something that I have to discover within myself.
Yeah, and I think that's something huge that you say that, because once you're in the tunnel, that we have this huge disconnect, and for us as women, our sole, you know, intention of life is to have connection. Like we want to have connection all the time. If it's not with you guys, it has to be with like a sister or a community or like a dance group or something. The minute that we don't have that connection, for us is fatal. And yeah, when you're in the tunnel, you can't make decisions. You can't give me the time that I deserve. So it's like
full of uncertainty.
Right. So it's unfair even for the women to want so much of you. And when I know that the men are going through this, I try to encourage the women to actually take that time for themselves. Like, this is the perfect time. If your man is going through the tunnel, you know, don't continue to punch him and kick him in the balls, but actually make the time for yourself to actually, like, okay, he's going through this, like, what can I do? How do I build myself up? How do I take care of myself? Like, this is a good place to start self-love.
And one thing that I see, another pattern with the guys that we coach, is that they put false sense of expectations to themselves, saying, I'm gonna break through this tunnel, I'm gonna break through. Like, they don't have the patience enough to actually say, like, I don't care how long it takes, I just need to rebuild from within.
Yeah.
And at the end of the rebuild, the end of the breakthrough, also know that it doesn't end there. I think a lot of the men that we work with, you know, they come out of their tunnel and say, okay, now, you know, everything is going to be awesome, right? Now everything's going to be great. No, that's just the beginning of it. Like, now you look back, I'm like, shit, I need to work on my relationships. I need to work on the things that I've done. It's like, clean up the space from the war. Like, if you go to war, there's casualties of war,
Yeah.
right? There is like towns that have been destroyed because of war.
Yeah.
So now you go through this inner war, you got to come on the other side and you have to heal the relationships that you might have been disconnected from.
And that's a huge thing. And, you know, a lot of the times, like, we tell guys, like, go back when you come out of your tunnel and you become, like, you have this such sense of awareness of what happened in your relationship. If you don't heal the past, if you don't heal what happened in your relationships, they kind of haunt you. Like, it doesn't go away. And every time you want to have a conversation, you have a fight, it comes up. Guess why? Because you never healed that part.
Yep.
You didn't take the time to heal it. And sometimes, you know, it takes more courage to go back and to heal it than to actually ignore it.
So let's take some questions right now. Let's get some Q&A. Raise your hand if you have questions. If you think you're going through a tunnel, if you think that maybe, you know, you're frustrated with your queen, that you need some feedback. Who has questions, or who's brave enough to stay here? All right, so we got Ron. Is that Ron? Right? Ron, unmute yourself, please.
Okay, this is great. I love this. We're getting some feedback. You know, going through the tunnel, I mean, can you guys kind of define what that looks like and what you're going through? I mean, if you're redefining yourself, you know, it's who you want to become as an individual, because that's a never-ending journey. You're always looking to get better. And how do you keep that connection while you're in the tunnel? If it's never-ending, I mean, how do you keep that connection? I'm in this great relationship now, and I want to make sure it stays that way. Got it.
All right. So first thing, the tunnel is never-ending. There's a beginning and there is an end, but there's many tunnels you're gonna go through life as you go through the experience. But the main tunnel, Ron, is one that allows you to actually shed away all the things that are unnecessary. Maybe in your business, you already lost the passion for your business. Maybe you lost the passion for certain things, and you're shedding away the things that were superficial before. So at the warrior stage, everything is mostly superficial. You want to look good, you want to feel good, everything is about you. And then when you start discovering that there is more to life than just you, you go through this phase like, what the fuck is life about? Like, what's my purpose? You know, why do I really need this? What am I really striving for more? It's more of where the time when you feel like as a man, you kind of like, fuck, like I've already done a lot of things, or I don't want to do all these things. Like, what do I really want to do, right? Yeah. So then, from my experience, that's the moment that you start shedding away the superficial armor, so you feel comfortable with who you are within the armor. Because before that, you will position yourself. You wear an armor based on your business, based on your position, based on who you were, and all those things were the experience of you. Going to the tunnel sheds away all that and lets you see who you truly are. So how do you keep that connection? It's just like as if you continue to evolve. It's like you have to communicate. I said, hey, like I'm going through this experience right now. I just need, that's my space to be able to grow and figure it out what's going on. The biggest thing that, since we don't know what's going on with ourselves, and a lot of men, they think that they go into a midlife crisis, automatically what we do is we start a business. Like we think, okay, let me get excited about a business. Let me get excited about something else. We buy expensive shit, a car, or we feel like we need somebody else to fulfill us. We have affairs. We look for somebody else to give us that praise. We try to fill that hole with something on the outside instead of looking at something in the inside. Anything else you want to add?
Beautiful. No, I would say that's pretty much sums it up. That's
so
your biggest
connection
student.
with his wife. How do you connect? How do you keep that connection?
I definitely be honest. I think a lot of the times men are scared to really say what's happening at the moment. And I know for you, sometimes you try to, I wouldn't say hide it, but you just want to cover it instead of really letting me know what's happening and trying to protect me. And I think instead of protecting me, you harm the relationship, because I know, like, we have this sixth sense and we tap into it all the time. And instead of you being honest, it's just, I feel like you're hiding something from me, and that makes it worse. So honesty is the key, and you really surrendering to your true feelings and voicing that out, then I think that's the best way. That's what's kept our relationship
One
alive.
thing you have to, I want to acknowledge that their sixth sense never fails. Like women know, like we think that we're good liars. We think that we're good at hiding. We can't hide for shit when it comes to the woman's sixth sense.
No.
All right, next, raise your hand. Who's brave enough to ask a question? Yeah. Microphone for Joe. Do we have one there too? Is that Bruce? Brian? Who's that, Jay? Raise your hand higher. John. John.
Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay. Going through this process, going through the tunnel and all, I guess this is probably more directed towards Vivian, but how do you explain this to your partner when their response is, this is your crap, you got to deal with it, and I don't want to know anything about it?
It's a great question. How does he explain this to his partner without scaring her, or without even, making it more than what it really is?
Well, I would say it's really hard for you to even explain to her what you're going through, because you don't know what you're going through. But the minute that you say, and sometimes less is more, and I've told this to Raul plenty of times, like, I feel when he's going through something, but if he just dedicates the time to tell me that something is happening and he can't explain it, but he'll get back to me and everything is going to be okay, then that itself is like, okay, do what you have to do, but come back and tell me what the hell we're doing here. I think just letting her know that you're not going anywhere. I think that's, for women, our biggest fear is like, are you going to come back to me? Is this still going to work out? What happens if the lion's coming after me and you're not going to be here? Who's going to protect me, right? I think if she knows that you're going to be there, which if that is your honest truth, that's what you say. If not, don't say it. If you're going to be there, just let her know that, because you need to figure that stuff out. I think you need to gift yourself the time to know how long and how much you need to be there. But ultimately, like, let her know what's happening in your life. There's no sense of you hiding it.
That's a great frame. So one thing that I will tell you, what I would have done different in my experience, is I would have been honest with Vivian to say that I'm going through a dark time.
I need my time.
I need to figure things out. What she knew is that I'm going to build my business. So how I masked my discovery at the beginning was I want to go to this personal development program so I could build my business. So she didn't know that the problem was me. She thought my problem was my business. She was like, what? Why do we have a problem in the business?
I thought the problem was me.
You see now, we think that we're trying to hide, thinking that we're masking our problems in business, when the reality is we're doing the opposite. We're creating more insecurity on our partner, because now they think that he's going away because he wants to avoid me. So I'm the problem.
Yes.
So what I would have done, I would have been more honest and said, listen, I don't know what's going on with me. I don't know. I just know that I have this depression energy, this energy of not having a purpose, of really uncertainty. I need to figure out how I can come back to my center, how I can come back to my core, how do I come back to being grounded.
And I still love you, and I'm still going to be here for you.
I'm reassured that I'm going to come back to continue in this path together. Yes. Now, if you have a hesitation, and again, when you're in the tunnel, if you go into a tunnel, I don't suggest you make a decision on your relationship when you go into the tunnel, because it could easily seem that it's her. And usually that's what the mind automatically says, well, if I have a better wife, or a wife that supports me, or a wife that fixes me, then I wouldn't be in the tunnel. No, the tunnel has nothing to do with your wife. The tunnel has to do with you. Now, after you go to the tunnel, then you start deciding from a place of certainty, not from a place of fear.
Right. Well, I understand that. My question is kind of, I don't know how to convey to her and let her. I've told her I'm never going to leave her. I love her. I will. That's just not. That's a given. She knows that. But my wife is a lioness. She will rip me apart the minute she even thinks anything's a little off. And I just want to be able to share with her that, you know what, things aren't right with me. I got to work something out. And how can I get that to her so that she feels safe at the same time as figuring it out myself?
So when you say your wife is a lioness, does she love the control? Is that she wants to be in control of everything? Is that she wants to know, like, tell me what's going on, tell me what's wrong with you, like, tell me is she in that energy of trying to control the relationship?
To an extent, yes, because she comes from, she has a background. Her father, she found her father with a family friend, and that caused the divorce. Yeah. And so she's got issues with that, but she needs to know that she's in control to an extent. She needs to, but she doesn't want the responsibility of the control.
Yeah. So for every single one of you, I want you to pick up this book called The Way of the Superior Man. The Way of the Superior Man will give you the framework of masculine and feminine energy. What just hearing this conversation makes me believe that your wife is very into her masculine, right? She's a lioness, so she wants to run the show. She wants to be in control because, again, she wants to not experience the same thing that her mom experienced, right? So what would you say in that case, Vivian? How do you break the masculine energy how do you switch the polarity? Because it feels that as he's trying to walk on thin ice, just not to wake up the lioness, is that right? That you don't want to disrupt the lioness because you don't want her to fucking eat you alive, right? But at the end, you're not fully a lion because you don't feel the certainty. So therefore, she feels already to the uncertainty. So again, that's going to create a lot of disruption in the polarity.
I mean, I would say she wants to be a lioness. That's amazing. We all need to be a lioness. Let her go hunt and do her thing. But you need to be the lion that God created you to be, or whatever you believe in, your stars, the moon. But if you're not that lion, if you don't have that polarity, that roar that wakes the shit out of her, then, you know, it's like, what? Where's the polarity? Where's this sexual chemistry? Where's all of that coming from? She cannot be ruling you. It has to be you ruling her. Like, who's the head and who's the tail? And you do what you want in your household. I'm just telling you how it works in my household. Like, I make a lot of decisions, and I am a lioness, and I love to have control, but I know when I need to surrender to my man because of, you know, who he is. And when you're going through that tunnel, like, let her know, like, I need my time, I need my space. This is what I deserve. If you feel you deserve it, like, I deserve this time. We deserve this time. I'm going to come out of this tunnel, and I'm going to be the man that you need me to be. Maybe you have forgotten. Maybe you need to remember all over again, like, who God created you to be.
That's a great insight, because I just, you know, hearing you say that 10 years ago, she wouldn't have said that. 10 years ago, she was like, I'm the one running the show. I'm the one in control. I'm the one doing this.
I'm the lioness.
I'm the lioness. This, and if, you know, so I feel your pain. I feel you, because my fear was like, hey, listen, let me just build my business, and let me be the lion in the cage that I could control, because I don't want to create friction at home. And that's what a lot of us, what we do is, we don't want to create the friction, unnecessary friction. But here's what I want you to consider. Like, if you're not embodying every aspect of you to be a leader, that part of you that feels that fear or the reacting is going to catch up in your business, is going to catch up in your health, is going to catch up in every single area. So better now that you start really embracing that. I said, okay, you know what, we're going to go through some pain. She may not agree with you a little bit. She may not even understand what you're going through. But I guarantee you that at the end of the tunnel, you're going to become a better man.
And she's going to love you for it.
10 times more, because now she's a lioness with a fucking lion, and both of you are gonna be running the shit. Love it. 2 claps. Next level. All right, one more before we break. Joe.
All right, so in my experience, guys, is I've been in this program for 5 years, and my wife and I have been together for 20 years, similar to you guys. And what happens is, in the first part of this journey, as you start to evolve and grow into the king, she's gonna feel not enough. Right, so whatever her insecurities were before, they're going to multiply several times. So what I recognized in my wife early on is I would have a conversation in business on the phone. She overheard me, and it would scare the shit out of her. She's like, where's this massive vision coming from doing all these things? So I stopped telling her so much stuff and started hiding those things, right? But now here we are, the last 2 years, she's grown into the lioness. She's grown into the queen, and now I was having a conversation today on the phone. She's like, why didn't you tell me about that? I'm like, well, before, this scared the shit out of you. I didn't want to tell you, so I was trying to protect her. She said, oh, no, I want to know about that because I got insights. Now she's sharing her insights based upon us doing the work every single day. And as you grow into the king, she stops kicking in the balls, number one. Now she's like, here, let me pet him a little bit before I kick him. So the reality is that don't protect your queens as they grow. As you grow and do your shit, own all the things that were in the relationship early on, but as you grow, she's growing with you, you don't see it. And then together, that unity, that polarity that we talk about, when the man and the feminine and masculine come together as one, that's a powerful force.
Beautiful. What can you add to that, Vivian? Not to protect the queen from the growth.
Yeah, I would say that's an awesome insight, not to protect her, but at the same time, give her the space that she needs to grow. Because I know that's something for Raul and I that was so true. It's like he was growing at his own. Once he came out of the tunnel, he knew who he was. Like, he remembered, right? And then I needed my own time because our time is not the same. So I couldn't run at his speed. I tried. I really tried, and I couldn't keep up. It was hurting my body. It was hurting me emotionally, physically. And then I realized, like, no, like, Vivian, it's Vivian. And I got to do what I got to do. And I'm worthy of this moment right now. It's going to take me this amount of time. It's going to take me 5-10 years. Who cares? In 10 years, I'll be the best version of me. Right? And
Beautiful.
Then worthy of it.
Beautiful. Give her a hand, guys.
If you receive any value from this conversation, comment, subscribe, and share as we continue to impact more people and take them to the next level.
And please send us your comments and questions so we could answer them in the next podcast.
See you in the next episode.